Steve is a 4.0 MBA and CEO of One Nevada Credit Union. Steve is a visionary who passionately believes in AI and its ability to revolutionize member experiences. He's actually named a chatbot after the Nevada wildflowers. And when he's not talking about the future of financial tech, you'll find him on the golf course, probably calculating the optimal algorithm for a putt. Welcome to Bits and Banks, the digital disruptors, the show where we get candid with C-suite on how digital transformation is changing lives of members and customers one board at a time. Welcome, Steve. Steve is a 4.0 MBA and CEO of One Nevada Credit Union. Steve is a visionary who passionately believes in AI and its ability to revolutionize member experiences. He's actually named a chatbot after the Nevada wildflowers. And when he's not talking about the future of financial tech, you'll find him on the golf course, probably calculating the optimal algorithm for a putt. Steve, welcome on board.
Thanks for having me, Aditya.
All right. We start this podcast on a light note. Here it goes. I did some research on One Nevada. I love that One Nevada started in 1950 with 9 employees who pooled in $5 each. So that's $45. Steve, now, after growing the credit union to $1.5 billion, a lot of that credit going to you, I have to ask, do these original 9 people get royalties or at least a nice fruit basket?
Well, they get all of our member communications first via first priority UPS mail. So they're on the
reasonable.
exclusive list.
Substitute for that. All right, sounds good.
Because they don't like the email and the digital communications yet.
Things to work on in 2026. All right, let's jump right in. So with that, question number 1, which is actually related to some of the things we just spoke about now, the human touch versus automation trade-off. So just to set context, Nevada has already seen impressive results from the rehaul of its website. So like 20% boost in mortgage applications, etc. As you pursue greater operational efficiency through automation and AI, there is a broad concern in the industry whether this efficiency comes at the cost of personal member-first culture that essentially defines credit unions. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think it's a valid concern, but this might ruffle some feathers, but I also think about, should it be a valid concern? Because I look at this, if we aren't doing these things, maybe we're going to be defined as the latest blockbuster. We have to be going down this road and bridge the gap between the physical and digital divide. And there's ways to still create that human connection. But if we're not utilizing these tools, we're not appealing to the new broader set of members that we could attract. And, you just got to face it. You let off, talking about some of the members that started this credit union. They're not going to be here forever. And we've got to be able to change and shift and be agile to the new consumer demands.
I believe you. And are there specific things that you're thinking about in 2026 around this trade-off, or how do you address this trade-off, or any thoughts you want to share in that area?
Yeah, I go back as recently as COVID just to kind of show examples. If there wasn't a bigger disconnection period in terms of human connection, then COVID exemplified that. And it was a period where we were able to actually create a lot of connection and goodwill and loyalty for the credit union by just taking some time and having our folks reach out to our members. And, that was the leadership. None of that credit goes to me as our leadership that we've had over the past 30, 40 years. It's all been directed towards the culture and putting members first. We just got to keep figuring out what that new way to keep the member first is. And a lot of what we can do from a digital perspective can meet the need. I mean, I know I go when I'm traveling all the time, and if I'm on Delta and I'm using their apps, sorry, Delta plug, I'm not getting paid for this. But if I'm using them and everything goes seamless and I don't have to engage with a person, I'm pretty excited about that experience. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of banking opportunity where if we can provide self-service and do that in a good way, but then also reaching out in a human connection way too for the problems that they weren't able to solve on their own, we're creating that loyalty and we're doing it in a different way.
Correct. And I think you hit an important point there, subtle but important, that is, depending on the type of service members are seeking, you will play the where there's an efficiency element Like the example, the convenience of a Delta app, you would want to use that. So mobile tickets, etc., right? Or on the app tickets. But coming back to the coming back to the credit union world, if I wanted to get personalized advice on wealth management or estate management, I would want to come in and speak to somebody. I would want to see more personalized, bespoke, in-person interaction versus more efficiency-driven interaction. So I think the type of service also and in some senses it frees up folks at One Nevada because we're always thinking about cost efficiency to be able to then focus on those quality interactions which require the in-person settings.
I agree with that statement 100%. And if you look at our strategy and what we've done, you can go back a little bit more than 20 years ago when we decided to yank tellers out of our branches. And it was an effort to understand that the future of banking is changing, even back then. And now we're seeing it change at an immense pace. But even then, getting prepared for the change and positioning us well so that we could take advantage of the opportunities that would be provided to us in the future allowed us to train and retain talent that was focused on different things so that those member interactions or those engagements were more meaningful.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big pivot, which at the time, when you think about yanking tellers out of your branches in Las Vegas, a cash intensive town, that is making a decision to probably lop off a percentage of potential members,
Yes.
adding them to your base. But
Yes.
we felt that over time we would be able to get that back, and I think that was the right call.
Also, the population mix in Vegas has moved, or Nevada is
Uh-huh.
dramatically changing. A lot of population that is coming in that is non-state. So I think when you look back so many years, that's also been a dynamic of the type of credit union members you have, the mix of those, right? Let's move on to the next question, which is related to this in some form and manner. The millennial drop-off challenge. So recent data shows, just to set context, recent data shows an interesting trend. Millennial credit union membership has dropped off from 31% to 22% between 2023 and 2025. Gen Z, twice as likely to switch institutions for better experiences and so on, that not better rates but better experiences. So given your focus on improving member experiences through digital engagement, what specific strategies are you thinking for One Nevada going into 2026, which is not just focused on new member acquisition but also drives around retaining or retention of these young members who broadly remain skeptical in some form and manner that credit unions broadly might be outdated? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that drop-off challenge that you mentioned there, it is troubling, and we have to be on top of our game because the competition isn't slowing down. It is very easy to move accounts and or not even move accounts. Maybe they just open other accounts and
Yes.
they're silently with your institution. And what do you do about that? So I view that as, most financial institutions for the most part are viewed as outdated.
Yes.
And I think that's a funny thing because, we're all trying to shine up our digital branches. And a lot of what the outdated mode, or if you trust some of these surveys that are coming out, is really they're looking at your branches, and it's hard to justify throwing a lot of money at that, especially when you look at us. I kind of call it, we've been victims of our own success, meaning that we've been really pushing for a digital first routine, and in that has taken a lot of interactions away from our branches. And
Yes.
so now we've got to figure out, how do we solve for that? And that becomes a challenge. So I think, the Gen Z, that they still want a lot of that interaction and that connection, but it's for specific types of transactions. And so we've got to upskill our staff and get our staff ready for what that next evolution of the credit union looks like so that we can be relevant to them.
Is there something you'd like to share on that related to your 2026 plans, which other credit unions could leverage or be informed by?
Yeah, I think, well, for us right now, 2026, as I'm new in the seat here, 4 months in as the
And
CEO. So
congratulations on that again.
yeah, thank you. And so really right now what we're doing is we're focused on, we've done a lot of great things over our past. And I say that new in the seat, but I've been with the credit union for almost 30 years now. And The member experience has been a very integral part of what we do, but we've really never highlighted that. And so we're laying the foundation to make sure that that is a strong strategy for us in 2026, making sure we're putting a person in that spot and making it a focal point to connect all the gaps that we have in all of our channels. It doesn't take very long to go around the organization and start having those listening tours and understanding right away that, we're doing a lot of great things, but we got to break down those silos. And when we break down those silos, we start seeing that we need to work together to make it a one experience for our members. And so I think, having some effort around that is going to naturally position us well for the 2026 goals, and making sure that the attrition problems that we talked about, the engagement problems, all of those things could be addressed through that. And so we're really looking at building strategies. So for 26, it's building the foundation before we start building all those strategies upon it.
I think that makes a lot of sense. All right, let's go into the third question. So you've been as we said at the start of the podcast, you've been a big proponent of Gen AI, and it's you launching of your internal chatbot capabilities, where I think about 188 members were trained on Copilot, and I believe you called it Sage, right? So as you look at that continuum going into 2026, using generative AI for internal automation, internal knowledge management, to now moving it towards front-facing, member-facing applications. What are your thoughts around that? How do you move it? How do you move the needle or the flagpole from operational efficiency to creating differentiated member experiences, leveraging this transformational Gen AI technology? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, getting our employees comfortable with those tools gives us a leg up in all those opportunities. And so we did go out there and present Sage, which is our chatbot, through Posh, to our contact center, and it has done just a fantastic job of starting to control 60 to 70% of our member engagements. And really, when you look at member experience, what that's enabled us to do is throw all the old metrics out the window. It's not about getting through every member quickly and getting to the next call, and really actually at the end of the day having probably most of those engagements being frustrating at some level.
Yeah.
And increasing those metrics or changing those metrics to having your AI answer the easy stuff
Yeah.
and get them where they need to go. But if there's something beyond that, our folks are ready, and they're going to spend the time to make sure those things are answered. And now where I think Gen A comes into play with all of that is, now let's analyze all those calls and let's understand sentiment, because as we talked about earlier, with all the digital tools, it's hard to understand what the member is feeling. And even if you have a 360 degree of the view of all the data, that might not tell you how they feel about the credit union.
Yes.
So we can augment that data with sentiment data and go, all right, now we understand a whole new level of these members, and how do we personalize or react or start using that within our databases to talk differently. And so that's something that we're learning, and we're going to try to deploy in the next few years here too.
Yeah, and one of the experiences we've had working with credit union and banks and some of the larger, even tier ones, is when you're deploying either agent assist or direct to members chatbot or conversational bot solutions, this iterative learning that you have and taking that feedback in and using that to retrain the AI and looking at specific business KPIs. So let's say it's NPS as an example, right? Or quality of response or accuracy of response, right? So all of those aspects, and looking at that consistently to iteratively hill climb the solution, the Gen AI solution or the conversational bot, so that it incrementally improves with interactions that are going on, and harnessing that live in production deployment data to kind of iteratively improve is very critical. Because there are these 1.5 sigma, 2 sigma events, scenarios that will happen, which you didn't envisage when you initially launched it. And being able to understand that and incorporate that in and kind of build richer and richer intelligence in that conversational AI bot is very critical for success. Success is not 85% upfront. Success could potentially be 65, 70%.
Okay.
And then you hill climb your way in terms of the business KPIs you want to achieve to 80, 85, 90. And if you get there, then you're kind of optimal, right? And that's an iterative cycle. That's a very critical element of success here. It's not the first time launch big bang 90%. It's actually maybe 50, 55, but then you hill climb your way up. And before you know, then you expand the use of it. So then a lot more requests as the bot gets more intelligent with live production data and tweaks that you make to your conversational AI pipeline, including the knowledge bases and such, then you get to a point where now you can put more at it, right? So then you get the operational efficiencies and quality of interactions and more customer satisfaction or member satisfaction self-service. So it's an iterative cycle that will go year, 2 years, 3 years, and you'll get to an optimal state of return from that investment that you made versus it being just perfect right off the bat, which I don't think is a realistic expectation.
I agree 100%.
Okay. Last question. What are you most excited about for going into 2026, besides the fact that you're the CEO and you've got a lot of responsibility? What excites you from a perspective that you like to share with the credit union movement? What excites you about One Nevada and the opportunity broadly going into 2026?
Yeah, the biggest word I can use for 2026 is opportunity. I think, from a Nevada perspective, we're set up extremely well to be able to take advantage of opportunity. And what we want to do with that is start leveraging all of these things that we've done. I mean, the last 6 to 7 years has been a lot of system replacements, unplugging, replugging, and implementing new technology and looking at things. Now we're going, all right, well, our foundation is there. Let's start building. And how do we leverage all these tools to now start seeing that ROI, seeing the improvement engagement? How do we do all these things? And so it's opportunity, and I think the opportunity is building a level of excitement within the organization that says we got some really good things in front of us, and everybody's has been tasked with how do we do this, and so we're all looking at unique strategies and ways to leverage what we've done, and I'm extremely lucky to have the team we have here, a lot of tenure, a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and I think we're poised for very good things.
Thank you. And I wish you, again, congratulations on your new role. And I wish you a successful 2026 and happy holidays as you get into the next couple of weeks here.
Same to you.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Bye-bye.